Hi, this is Sheila Mahoney from LifeSciHub. Happy to be here with you to introduce a incredible resource and consultant, Francis Crawley.
And we wrote the first European guideline for ethics committees, guidelines and recommendations from UNAIDS. Also asked me to go to Africa and to Asia and to be involved with HIV there. And then in 1999, the WHO asked me to organize the first meeting for ethics committees. And then also I chaired the Data and Safety Monitoring Board guidelines and some other guidelines of the WHO. Practice with the European Commission, with the European Parliament, and yes, with the EMA and others.
Into the content of the discussion, and that is the idea of your body of work as a key opinion leader on the worldwide stage of clinical trial ethics, and how can drug sponsors make use of that. And I wanted to just ask, in terms of how would a drug sponsor need some help with regards to their ethics and integrity program, and what would that look like, if you can give some examples?
So it does happen at times where the pharmaceutical industry comes into difficult questions with regard to how can we deliver vaccines to underrepresented groups, or how can we involve patients with rare diseases in clinical trials. How can we find those patients and involve them? How can we deal with such a thorny question, for example, as doing research with the children of minor parents, or doing research with microdosing, or how do we recruit children into clinical trials, or how do we recruit the elderly and those who don't always have all their facilities with them, or how do we involve the community, let's say, in decisions about emergency medicines or about vaccines in a much broader sense. So these are questions that, in a certain sense, we have a lot of ethics guidelines, and I've been fortunate to work on most of them, many of them around the world, and with countries and governments on them. We have these guidances, but these guidances don't fill the specific holes, the specific gaps that we encounter when we actually go to do a clinical trial, or we would go to take a medicine that's already been registered and approved and put it on the market, and then have to follow up with something like, say, like real world evidence, or follow up with some kind of pharmacovigilance studies. So there's a whole range of areas that, or let's say, there's that area, that gray area in between those broad philosophical or ethical pronouncements that we have, the good clinical practice that we have, and the specific instances in which we find ourselves.
Good point. We talked briefly about the idea of offering to pharmaceutical companies an ethical review, which would entail you bringing all of your expertise to bear in evaluating a drug sponsor's ethical considerations, data integrity position, including GDPR, or perhaps just focused on the decision-making around how a company perceives ethics, how they apply that perception of ethics to their clinical trials, and to then put forth an output of almost like an inventory or an audit of a company's ethical stance. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Now, what we've discussed is we started to map out a plan so that we could visit pharmaceutical companies and look at their best practices, their practices with regard to ethics within their company and within the areas they wanted to have examined or appreciated, and then to do a kind of evaluation, an audit if you want, to present our findings, to allow the company to respond, and then eventually to present a certificate of accreditation for ethics. we all need that. We all need someone who comes in and looks at us and says we're doing it well. And we also need to be able to say to other people, look, we do our job, we try to do our job the best we can, and we've invited an outside group to come in and look at us and make an evaluation, and we've responded to their evaluation. So I do think, if you want, it's public relations, but it's far more than public relations.
Right.
It's doing the best we can, and it's good business practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, I can see where having an objective third party in that equation, one that has, an expertise in not just patient engagement and patient advocacy, but academia and clinical trial ethics as well, can only help a situation like that, because it adds so much credibility to both for everybody involved. Francis, I think we're out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to say or end with?
I would like to thank you, Sheila, for being so nice to me and giving me such a nice interview and allowing me to say some of the things that are close to my heart and some of my interest, which I really appreciate, and just for being so generous. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to know you. To have somebody with your level of expertise among my acquaintance and part of the LifeSciHub network is a privilege, and we look forward to helping connect you with pharmaceutical companies that could utilize your expertise. So with that, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch. If you would like to know more, please do reach out to LifeSciHub, contact info to follow. And thank you, Francis. Good night.
Thank you, Sheila. Have a good afternoon, though.
You too.